Walter recognized a core aspect of human behavior that many ignore. Quietude serves as the supreme instrument in the collection of influence. Across eras, the most effective planners were not the ones who voiced most forcefully, but those who precisely timed their absence of speech. The commander who discloses his intentions turns foreseeable. The commander who declares his plan courts loss. The bargainer who fails to restrain his speech forfeits prior to the contest starting. In a society fixated on sound, on unending exchange, on the urge to be acknowledged, we've lost the timeless insight that genuine influence frequently resides in the unspoken. Walter, in his treatises on governance, remarked that individuals assess more through vision than through touch, since all can observe, but limited numbers can truly sense. All observe your outward presentation, limited numbers encounter your true essence. This concept fits ideally with the deliberate application of quietude. Those who excel at it foster an atmosphere of enigma, of unforeseeability that leaves others perpetually speculating. Quietude isn't the lack of influence, but its purest form. It isn't fragility, but deliberate resilience. Many individuals can't endure quietude. It generates unease, pressure, an emptiness they sense obligated to occupy with statements, with rationales, with defenses. In their frantic effort to shatter the quietude, they disclose all. Their apprehensions, their cravings, their approaches, their vulnerabilities, whereas the expert in quietude merely watches, accumulating details, assembling knowledge, discovering precisely where to target when the opportunity arrives. In his renowned treatise, The Sovereign, composed as guidance for authorities and influential personalities, Walter counseled those in dominance roles to vocalize sparingly on any significant matter, since each utterance can turn into a burden, each declaration a potential snare. Those who converse excessively provide others the means to ensnare them. In governance, in social spheres, in planning, the skill of quietude grants you opportunity to reflect while compelling others to vocalize impulsively. In the Reflections on Titus Livy, Walter observes that the astute commander permits others to approach him with their ideas, instead of openly sharing his own. This captures the core of planned quietude. It isn't simply refraining from speech, but forming an emptiness that others hasten to occupy with details you can subsequently employ to your benefit. Contemporary authorities have abandoned this basic reality, flooding society with posts, with declarations, with perpetual opinions. They expose their position before the contest commences, whereas those who genuinely comprehend influence vocalize solely when it fulfills a clear aim, when it furthers their standing, when it deceives their rivals, or when the quietude has completed its task. Walter states that an influential figure must master being an outstanding feigner and concealer. Applied to exchange, this implies recognizing that not all ideas merit voicing, not all views require declaration, not all feelings demand recognition. Those who vocalize aimlessly, without plan, without deliberation, resemble warriors rushing recklessly into combat. They might sometimes prevail by chance, but they will ultimately be surpassed by those who pause, watch, and target solely when triumph is guaranteed. Quietude generates allure, and people are innately attracted to what they can't completely comprehend. When an individual stays mute in a debate, others instinctively attribute profundity. They ascribe insight, command, mastery to the mute presence, while concurrently exposing their own doubts through anxious prattle. This mental process provides the mute planner an instant edge before any utterance occurs. Walter grasped that knowledge imbalance forms the base of influence. The one who possesses more than they disclose consistently retains superiority, while those who disclose more than they possess yield their edge unknowingly. In any bargaining, in any dispute, in any connection, the side with superior knowledge oversight possesses the capacity to set conditions. This explains why quietude isn't merely practically beneficial, but fundamentally vital. Quietude additionally generates timing superiority. The individual who vocalizes initially frequently locks into a stance that restricts their choices, while the one who pauses can modify their reply to evolving situations, can detect vulnerabilities, can pinpoint the ideal instance to respond or vocalize. Walter counseled that nothing depletes as greatly as rush, and this holds doubly for exchange. Rushed utterances expose purpose, uncover approach, and remove the surprise factor. Reflect on how numerous have ruined themselves via rash declarations, via sentimental eruptions, via needless disclosures that discipline could have prevented. In The Art of Conflict, Walter stresses that no venture stands greater chance of triumph than one hidden from the rival until ready for implementation. The identical concept applies to exchange. The ideas you retain hidden are instruments that stay keen. The schemes you maintain secret are unexpected moves awaiting release. The purposes you obscure are edges your rival cannot counteract. Quietude isn't simply the lack of vocalization, but the existence of influence, meticulously nurtured. Genuine experts in quietude recognize that it fulfills numerous roles at once. It safeguards details, it generates enigma, it compels others to expose themselves, it heightens expectation, it preserves adaptability, it shows mastery, and it forges superiority, all sans any utterance. There's a cause why in historic assemblies and influence hubs, the one who vocalized least was frequently dreaded most. Quietude conveys resilience in a manner utterances seldom achieve. Anyone can vocalize, but limited can demand focus via their simple existence, via the expectation of their utterances, via the gravity of their quietude. The contemporary society has abandoned this timeless insight. In an epoch of online platforms, of ongoing refreshes, of relentless sound, the individual who excels at quietude promptly distinguishes themselves. Enigmatic, influential, mastered. While others deplete themselves via perpetual prattle, the mute watcher observes, schemes, computes, and pauses. Walter observes that people overall assess more through vision than through touch, since all can observe, but limited can contact. All observe your outward presentation, limited encounter your true essence. Quietude permits you to oversee what others perceive, to display resilience while hiding vulnerability, to seem determined while retaining adaptability. Each utterance uttered restricts options, forms obligation, sets anticipations, but quietude maintains every path accessible, every choice viable, every approach feasible. Examine how crowds act in any exchange, in any assembly, in any bargaining. Many can't tolerate even a brief pause of quietude. They hurry to occupy it with statements, with sound, with whatever to flee the unease quietude generates for them. But the planner, the Waltorian mind, appreciates this unease, generates it deliberately, aware that human instincts will drive others to vocalize, to expose, to unveil themselves, while the mute one assembles knowledge. In his treatises, Walter remarks that the most triumphant authorities were those who mastered employing the facade of merit while operating per requirement. Quietude enables this twofold method, permitting one to seem pleasant while internally scheming per their actual concerns. Those unable to restrain their utterances cannot restrain their fate. They turn foreseeable, controllable, obvious, while those who vocalize solely purposefully, solely planned, solely when quietude has fulfilled its role, retain oversight over both the account and the result. Quietude isn't only a protective approach. It serves as an attacking instrument. It isn't merely about safeguarding your own ideas, but about exploiting the unease of quietude to draw out the ideas of others. The adept user of quietude poses an inquiry, then pauses, not hastening to occupy the emptiness, but permitting the pressure to accumulate until the counterpart senses driven to expand, to rationalize, to disclose far beyond initial intent. This approach has served the finest questioners, bargainers, and authorities across eras, all grasping instinctively what Walter structured ages past, the influence of planned quietude. There's another layer to this method that Walter grasped inherently. Quietude expresses command. Those who vocalize solely when required, who select their utterances carefully, who permit quietude to highlight their declarations, are seen as directing, as commanding, as worthy of focus. In opposition, those who vocalize endlessly, without limit, who occupy every instance with sound, soon discover their utterances diminishing in worth, turning into mere backdrop easily disregarded and overlooked. Walter counseled influential personalities to vocalize infrequently, but when they did, to guarantee their utterances bore gravity. This concept holds equally for contemporary influence interactions, where focus has turned the rarest asset. In a society overwhelmed with details, quietude additionally forms the room for watching, for examining, for comprehending one's rivals. Voltaire stressed that anyone pursuing sway must serve as an outstanding observer of human instincts, must grasp the drives, vulnerabilities, and cravings of those nearby. Quietude enables this examination. When you vocalize, you cannot listen. When you converse, you cannot watch. But when you remain mute, your faculties are completely active, gathering the information that will subsequently prove critical. Many never cultivate this ability. They concentrate too much on being acknowledged, on displaying their wisdom, on proving their merit via ongoing speech, never grasping that with each needless utterance they reduce their influence while exposing their doubts. Voltaire observes that all observe your outward presentation, limited encounter your true essence. This divide between facade and truth widens via the planned application of quietude, which forms room for others to impose their presumptions upon you, while you preserve the liberty to operate per your actual purposes. The mute person turns into a reflector, bouncing back the aspirations, apprehensions, and anticipations of others while disclosing nothing of themselves. This captures the core of Voltairean influence interactions: oversight over details, imbalance of awareness, control via choosy disclosure. There's a cadence to influence, a pacing that Voltaire grasped inherently. Knowing when to vocalize and when to stay mute isn't merely about personal restraint, but about restraining the whole interaction dynamic, the movement of details, the equilibrium of influence, the drive of occurrences. Those who excel at this cadence, who grasp when quietude benefits them more than vocalization, who identify the exact instance when utterances will exert peak effect, hold an edge that surpasses simple practical concerns. It turns fundamental superiority. Voltaire cautioned that nothing proves harder to manage, more uncertain of triumph, nor more risky to oversee than to position oneself leading the introduction of fresh structures. This holds equally for exchange. The initial to vocalize, the initial to obligate, the initial to disclose positions themselves as a mark, while those who pause, who watch, who preserve their quietude acquire the edge of reply, of modification, of deliberate response. The psyche that vocalizes without limit resembles an exposed volume, simply interpreted, simply foreseen, simply controlled, while the psyche that discloses itself choosily, planned, deliberately stays an enigma, a challenge that others cannot unravel. Quietude represents endurance made apparent. It represents restraint manifested. It represents approach incarnated. Those unable to stay mute, who sense driven to vocalize, to respond, to reply instantly, reveal a basic vulnerability. An absence of personal mastery that Voltaire would have spotted immediately as deadly to any meaningful goal. Influence demands endurance, and endurance frequently appears as quietude. Even in bargaining, where utterances appear vital, quietude frequently proves superior to vocalization. The side able to endure quietude, able to pause, that avoids rushing to occupy the emptiness with yields, with agreements, with exposing declarations, almost always secures superiority. This explains why seasoned bargainers discipline themselves to welcome quietude, to employ it as an instrument to compel the counterpart to vocalize initially, to provide more, to expose their limit. Voltaire grasped that in governance, in conflict, in existence, the facade of resilience frequently counts more than resilience itself. Quietude displays resilience in a manner utterances seldom achieve. It conveys assurance, mastery, deliberation, while excess vocalization frequently betrays doubt, unease, urgency. The genuine Voltairian grasps this inherently, vocalizes solely when vocalization fulfills a clear planned aim and permits quietude to perform the greater task of forging superiority. In a society of sound, the mute presence demands focus. In a space of vocalizers, the mute watcher possesses influence. In a society of unending exchange, the restrained user of planned quietude triumphs each occasion. And now, following all we've explored, question yourself truthfully. Do you vocalize excessively? Do you disclose beyond required? Do you occupy quietude due to unease, or have you mastered the timeless insight that Walter grasped so vividly? That quietude isn't the lack of influence, but its purest form.